Hey everyone, I haven't decided if I'm going to post this to my page or not, but I want to talk about past lives for a minute. Hey guys. So I wanted to jump on and just talk about past lives and just to very casually share some thoughts that I have on it. Maybe why I haven't spoken about it in great length. I have like one written post about past lives, but it's not really something that I bring up, even though I consider myself to be a very spiritual person. And even though I do believe in past lives, and I also believe in reincarnation, this is how consciousness evolves. And I think either a kind of a rudimentary understanding of reincarnation is maybe the reason why some people feel disconnected from the impact that this has on their present day life. But also just a lack of that being reflected within our society. So the thing is that it's a very interesting time to be alive right now, because what's happening is that in these spiritual communities, a lot of the people like yourselves who are watching, you are some of the first waves of people who are actually having body-based, visceral memory recovery. And the reason why I think it's so controversial is because, and I guess the reason why I haven't spoken about it a ton is because it can be a tool, or it can be, let's say, a way to bypass something that's really actually connected to this lifetime. But here's where things start to get complicated, because a lot of times the things that did happen in past lifetimes are very connected to this lifetime because of how cyclical everything is. And that's very apparent in the way that our society looks right now, because what we're seeing is kind of the recycling of the fall of Atlantis. So, the majority of the human population has not even remotely recovered any of their galactic memories, let alone, or let's say, other memories of their embodiments and timelines on this planet. But they haven't even accepted it as a possible idea, right? We still have the majority of our population under a level of mind control and hypnosis, which is feeding an overlay about human history. It's feeding an actual artificial timeline that is not the truth of what happened. So people are very disoriented about why the things look the way that they do in their own lives, and are usually disconnected from the trauma that even happened in this lifetime. So fundamentally, we have to get our society on a page where we're even acknowledging trauma from this lifetime exists, and what that actually means, and what the implications of that are. We then need to get people on the page of understanding that, and this is of course in everyone's own time. It's not from a place of like forcing it, but by being a light in this world. But the next level is to understand that we've been under deep hypnosis. Some of this was quite intentional. This is how our consciousness evolves, by moving into this deep densification and separation from these higher aspects of ourselves, but also quite tampered with. And we could say that that's just another force, or a catalyzing force, to move us higher, which it absolutely is. But or we can use it that way if we want to. But it's still interference. There's still very real, attempts to basically thwart human beings from accessing. It's no coincidence that we're electrifying the planet right now while we have electromagnetic organic beings who are literally trying to jump on a wave of consciousness within the planet that's rising. So if you start messing with it, right, why else is there such a concerted attempt to mess with the biofield? Because that biofield is directly tapped into our psychic abilities and our ability to see beyond the veil. And I guess that leads us back into this conversation about past lives, because that's a part of, right, our ability to read the Akashic records, to have a deeper and more meaningful understanding of the cycles and patterns that are playing out without it just being isolated in a vacuum to this lifetime. The more that we can understand our human evolution and history, that's healing, because otherwise we're separated from those memories, which is us. It's a piece of us. And that cognitive knowing is a very important piece of our healing. So past lifetimes are like, I'm not usually going to suggest to a person that, oh, this is coming from a past lifetime. My first initial response always, if I'm working with a client, is how does it make sense that this is happening based on this person's life experience from this lifetime? But I can tell you from the types of people that are attracted to my work, that I do work with, a good percentage of them have recovered lifetimes from these other memories. And so it's really up in their face. There's not a question, by the way. Anyone who's recovered past life memories, it's not a question to this person as to whether or not this was a real experience. When the memory drops in, it's not like just like a mental thing. It is a full body, emotional, spiritual, physical, mental, psychological, or, physiological, like every cell of your body. Okay. And the person who's experiencing that or re-experiencing that memory is experiencing it as if it is happening in real time. That's how real it is. So, and these are people that are like just spontaneously having this happen to them. They weren't even trying. It just blasted through their DNA into their consciousness. And that's because people who tend to have these experiences, and these very genuine experiences, have been doing work to start to open up their DNA to even be able to process these records. And again, it gives you a real context for maybe some more subtle themes and patterns that are showing up in this lifetime that are connected to that. So I fully believe that if we need a specific memory in order to integrate something, whether it's from this lifetime or another, that will come through, and it will come through when you are ready for it, even if it feels destabilizing, which it absolutely will be destabilizing. Because we're talking about memories that have been suppressed within the DNA for hundreds, sometimes thousands of years. So it's a miracle that it's able to finally come through, that there is a coherent enough structure for that to be processed and alchemized through, and to remember that when those things are coming up, even though we may have to heal or process them in layers, it is the process of it being alchemized and thus leaving the body and leaving the DNA and transforming into something much higher, which is a byproduct of having experienced that and then taking the wisdom from that experience, and being able to clear out a lot of the emotional, psychological, nervous system, and relational patterns that came out of that. And I think the reason why I'm able to understand people who have come to me with those past life memories is because I had that happen. I had one past life from Lemuria drop in, or I'm still, it was either the fall of Lemuria or it was the Egypt timelines. But it was so real and it was so unexpected. I know the look on people's faces when they're telling me something that, because I just know what it feels like. There was a time where I couldn't even talk about the memory without breaking down into hysterics. So if this is something that people are just making up in their minds, I'm telling you no, that's not it. Now, what I will say, okay, is that there are obviously people who are delusional and think that they are picking up on something that is a past life, or they're blaming something that they're unprepared to deal with in this lifetime on a past lifetime. And there's a lot of weird stuff like that happening in a lot of spiritual communities, especially around relationships, because you realize that there can be artificial and implanted, especially when we're talking about bonds and people thinking that they're twin flames and all this stuff. A lot of it gets really out there. Not that that's not a real thing, not that we don't have this very sacred unification process, but that a lot of what people are thinking is something is actually an implanted artificial timeline. And also, delusion is how we cope with uncertainty, fear, pain. So you can sense it though, the difference between like, okay, something about this feels off, something about this feels like I'm trying to, you can just feel the difference between someone who's using past life as a way to escape or bypass something and like a genuine experience. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else on this topic. I guess to say that if you're somebody who's having these breakthrough memories and you've processed them, or you've started to process them, or if this happens to you in the future and you're hearing this now and you haven't had any memories come through, just know that when it happens, or if it's happened, it's very real. You're not alone. And even though there's no real context for it, or even unless you've been studying esoterics for a while, but I guess there's no there's nothing in our society that like helps you understand that. Just find other people who are not going to gaslight you and who can help you to process it, because it's really no different than how we would work with a trauma or a PTSD from this lifetime. And this is really going to be the next level. I mean, eventually, a lot of the people who are doing soul retrieval on this lifetime and, healing these splits and alchemizing into these third elements, creating, that's alchemy, creating something from polarity that is neither, it's not the coin, right? It's the rejection of duality. It's a whole other fucking ballgame. Once we start moving into those realms, we're going to start to do timeline work and soul retrieval and timeline repairs on, far beyond just this. And I'm going to say that in a lot of cases, your higher aspects are already doing that. You're just not aware of it yet. So if people have said they had a dream about you and you were helping them, do some mission or something, your higher aspects are working. Like I said, even if we're not aware of it. So that's all I have for now. I've got a live coming up in 3 hours. I have another call, and then in 3 hours, I'm going to go on Selena's page, which the link is in my story right now, and we're going to talk about our views on the rise of psychoactives within spiritual communities, self-help communities, as well as talk about regular plants. We'll say non-psychoactive plants. We'll talk about the nervous system. I don't want to say too much more because we're going to go into it over there. So that is at 2:30 Pacific and 5:30 Eastern. So maybe I will see you there or in the replay. Bye, guys.